Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Ronsley, and this is part 2 of my conversation with Steph Taylor on her podcast, Imperfect Action. And I am a huge fan of Steph Taylor, primarily because she did not have a podcast. She came to We Are Podcast in 2016, 2017. She spoke at 2018 and is now a very successful podcaster and does these amazing shows. So please go check out our podcast. This particular part is all about how imperfect action drives AI innovation. We talk about really cool things like prompting mistakes, what not to do when it comes to AI, what to do and how to make it really useful for you, utilizing AI for content creation and podcasting, which is obviously such a massive use if you have a podcast or any sort of content creation tool, and how imperfect action in personal and business and professional life works when it comes to myself, my experiences, and how you can use that to your advantage. Come, let's learn.
Hey, it's Ronsley. Welcome, you AI geek, to this podcast, my AI love affair. Consider this podcast your digital compass, guiding you through the labyrinth that is business growth using artificial intelligence. Running a business as a creative can sometimes be like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. But what if you had a secret tool that could align all the colors for you? That is AI. It's like a master key unlocking multiple doors. Thanks for being here. Let's learn.
So, what are some of the big mistakes that you're seeing people making? Obviously, putting in the wrong prompts or not understanding really how to feed it those prompts to get the right outputs is a huge one. What else?
Well, I think in general, what tends to happen is in this digital world, we see other people doing stuff and we think that we need to be experts straight away. Or we think that we can learn it straight away. This is the big misconception. You know, people who are not graphics designers come across Canva and suddenly are graphics designers. But when you look at their work, you can tell that they are not graphics designers. It's no different in artificial intelligence. So really understanding how prompting works, really understanding what context is, really understanding how a computer thinks or how we think, because that's exactly the way the computers are built. How we take information, how we process information. And here's the thing, every business owner, the biggest jump they can go through is going from solopreneur to entrepreneur. Because from solopreneur to entrepreneur, you bring team into focus. And a lot of us are not business owners or haven't learned to be business owners. And that big jump is a whole new learning, because we've got to learn recruitment, we've got to learn team management, we've got to learn operations, we've got to learn culture. There's a lot of new aspects from business play that come into play when we're talking about solopreneur to entrepreneur jump. Now, artificial intelligence is no different. It is, if you don't have a background and you just copied someone else's prompt and you've got a result and you don't know what to do with it from there, that is a problem right there. So really going in and understanding how artificial intelligence works, especially prompting, because now you see multimodal functions coming into GPT-4, which is fascinating because
What is
you can
that?
take multimodal. So right now, text is one mode. Multimodal is image, video, text.
Gotcha.
So now computers can see, so computer vision, computers can hear. So that is now coming into ChatGPT. They made an announcement yesterday, actually, that multimodal is already coming out to GPT-4, which means you can click a picture of your fridge and you can say, tell me what to make. And that is intelligence, right? You're using intelligence in the right way. And for everyone, mistakes, this is the mistake that most of us are making. We are going to ChatGPT or to AI to try to do the things that we are really good at. That's the big mistake everyone's making. Go and do the things you're not good at and ask intelligence to make to give you a superpower. My whole team has got a pay rise if they can start using artificial intelligence. And as a result, they're superhuman. I'm not joking, because they're augmenting their intelligence with artificial intelligence. They're not replacing their intelligence, they're augmenting it.
Can you give us
That
some
is the
examples of
power.
how? What practical things are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, so my whole team is full-time in the Philippines, and English is not their first language. So bolstering that with artificial intelligence is massive, massive, right? A lot of us are not graphics designers. A lot of us are not lead generators, or we don't know how to write a landing page. Artificial intelligence can do that, right? A lot of us are not good at a lot of really, really important business things that we're still learning, we don't have experience with. Artificial intelligence can help you with that. SWOT analysis, if you don't know what that is, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Any new thing you're doing or any current thing you're doing, if you've not done a SWOT analysis on that, you have blind spots in your business. And if you're trying to do it on your own, it is very hard because you're doing the SWOT analysis with blind spots, as opposed to doing it with intelligence that has no bias, so you can see everything the way it is. And that is the way you can use AI to get things out that probably might have been lying on the back burner for a while.
How do you, because obviously if you put a bit of bias into the prompts, then that's going to give you a biased answer. So how do you structure a prompt in a way that is unbiased and it's not going to get you a biased answer as well?
I'll just ask it a question like how you would normally ask a question of someone that you don't want bias from. Like if you want your answer to be biased in the way that you kind of say, hey, when you get this input, I want you to take this input and process it like this. That is biased because you're telling it how you want it to process your input. Now, if you're asking it, do a SWOT analysis on my product, it's going to look at threats, opportunities, weaknesses, and strengths from a place that you are not seeing because you don't have that bias. Or if you're kind of filling that out, you already have a structured way of looking at the world, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't know that structure. So getting that fresh perspective is where you can start to sort of see the blind spots that you have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. What about on the creation side, the content creation side, whether that's podcasting, social media? What are some awesome ways that somebody can start to use it that they might not have thought about?
A lot of us business owners, online business owners who've never been to marketing school, don't realize that there are marketing frameworks and copywriting frameworks which the world is built on and marketing is built on and content is built on. So we kind of just use whatever we've been taught or whatever we've used in the past before and just replicate that. Now, the best way to use artificial intelligence is to take a framework that exists and then apply your particular personalized situation to that framework. Now, that could be the sunken cost bias is a framework that you can use to write a landing page where someone has invested money into something and they don't want to lose that, and you can write copy from that perspective. Now you can find a whole bunch of copy frameworks. There are different frameworks that are made for particular instances. So depending on where you're at, if you're kind of creating a landing page, you're creating an email nurture sequence, you're creating a sales page, you're creating a sales email, whatever it is that you're making, there's a framework for it. So find that framework, figure out what are the pieces of the input that framework requires, and then ask intelligence to do that for you from your personalized vantage point of this is my business, these are the people I help, this is the way, this is the outcome I give them, this is how I give them the outcome. Now apply this framework and write me some sales copy. Now that will really, especially with someone who's not good at copy, right? I'm not a good writer. I hate writing, and actually I hate editing. And as someone who can write code in 21 languages, what I hate is debugging. So which now artificial intelligence can do both those things for me. And it's saving me so much of headspace.
In terms of producing your podcast, how are you using AI in that whole process?
Yeah, everything is AI'd. So
Except your voice, I hope.
Even that can be AI'd, by the way,
Yeah.
using 11 Labs and using Descript, which
Yeah, we use that.
sometimes if I do make mistakes and the team puts in a word, but it sounds like I have said the whole sentence, but it's actually edited using my voice, and it's only one or two words that are used to complete the sentence. So I feel like Descript is probably the best way to get into AI because it does it with content that we are already used to. There's all this really rich functionality that Descript has embraced, which I think is probably the easiest way to start using artificial intelligence, because then you can create better content and put out content that you've already recorded anyway and just kind of make it nice and consumable. And you can do that with a few clicks using AI, which at one point, I mean, Steph, when I started doing podcasting, I had to look at the waveform. I can tell you from a waveform what's an R. Yeah, right? And now I don't think anyone even looks at waveforms when they edit.
Yeah.
So that has changed quite a lot.
If I see anybody editing their podcast in GarageBand, Audition, any of the things where they're looking at a waveform, I'm like, sorry, what are you doing? You know, you can do this in Descript now. Like, it's so much easier. Yeah. And this has all just happened in the last, 6 to 12 months. It's just exploded. It's become so much easier.
Yeah. And the main reason for that is, so we've known these algorithms, machine learning, deep learning algorithms for decades, right? This has been around for a long time. What has changed is that computers have gotten faster, so processing speed has gone up, network speeds have gone up, and storage has become cheaper. Because of these three main factors, the last year has exploded. And that's why everyone thinks that AI has just come. AI has been around for a long time.
Okay. So I know there are people who are listening to this right now who are thinking, oh, like I'm a copywriter, or I'm a social media marketer, or I'm insert other business role here. I'm really worried AI is going to steal my job. It's going to steal my business. It's going to make me irrelevant. What would you say to those people? What advice would you give for them?
I would give a driver who would tell me that their job is going to go, which it is going to go. Drivers in particular have had at least a decade to make a change. So if a driver comes up to me now and says, hey, you know, my job is going to go to driverless cars or driverless vehicles, I'll be like, dude, you had a decade to prepare. So I would say the same thing for everyone now. You have time to prepare. Don't use ignorance and lack of knowledge to be in your comfort zone and do the same things again and again the way you've been doing it.
So essentially really being open to pivoting, looking out for those opportunities. Do we know what those opportunities might look like at this stage?
I think human intelligence is only so small because we can't remember everything. We're not as fast. We're not as accurate. If we practice, we can, but just in general, we're not. But we can augment that with artificial intelligence, right? We can augment our human intelligence with artificial intelligence. And then if we align that with divine intelligence, then we have an ethical way of using AI. Because if we can't use our human way of ethics because we don't have the best track record of ethical ways of doing things. So,
no, we don't.
No, we don't. So that alignment of human, artificial, and divine intelligence is a really good way to start to align yourself. If you kind of go, okay, where am I going? So you just kind of come back to that straight line. In terms of opportunities, I feel like things that you thought was not possible, that you couldn't learn or you couldn't do or you couldn't achieve, whatever that might be. Now, for a lot of us creators, we might have courses, and this is a lot for a lot of us, right? So not only does it get rid of burnout and anxiety and having all these spinning plates, it actually helps you ship, which for a creative entrepreneur is probably our biggest weakness because we love creating. Shipping is where we get stuck.
And what tools are you using for this? Are you using just normal ChatGPT? Are you using other tools?
Yeah, great questions. There's a variety of different tools. To start off with, I think the free version of ChatGPT the free version of Claude, and Descript is probably the 3 AI tools that I would get in first. Then I would upgrade and start going into GPT-4, which is the plus version. Because with GPT-4, you get access to the data analysis, you get access to plugins, and you get some really cool things that you can't do with GPT 3.5. Both GPT 3.5 and 4, there's a really important function inside settings that you need to enable, which is called custom instructions. Now, custom instructions is the most powerful little utility that's there. And if anyone here is complaining about it not sounding like you, it's because you're not using custom instructions. So inside custom instructions, you tell it who you are and what you're about, and you tell it how you want it to respond, and it'll do it exactly the way you want it to do. So you can use that in 3.5 or 4, but those custom instructions are super important. That really helps with context. Now, context is what makes everything. I mean, we've heard about this, content is nothing, context is everything. The same thing is with artificial intelligence. So if you're giving it a generic question like write me an article on artificial intelligence, it's going to give you a generic response. But if you give it context, like write me an article for creative business owners who have an online presence to adopt artificial intelligence in the simplest possible manner using X, Y, Z so that they can implement and they can do it straight away, that is more context. You see how that prompt has changed from just a generic prompt? That is what I'd love you, your listeners to learn, is because it's like, that is a superpower. So if you can structure that prompt in that manner, wow, you can create some amazing things.
I love that. I love that. And I think that is a beautiful note to end the conversation on AI. Ronsley, I have one question that I ask all of my listeners that I didn't ask you last time you were on the show because it wasn't imperfect action back then. And that question is, can you tell us about the last time or a time when you took imperfect action?
Every time I fall off the wagon when it comes to fitness, getting back on is always imperfect action. Because in my head, I feel like I have to be perfect, because I remember the last time I went for a run and it was perfect because I had, 3 months of practice under my belt and I'd been running for 3 months. And I remember that time, but I haven't run in the last 6 months. So I can't expect that run to be the same or feel the same. And the only way I'm going to get back to that point and enjoy my run again is to take imperfect action. And I feel that's the same with anything when it comes to business, comes to life, and comes to marriage, relationships. I think they all sort of fall in the same category. I think there is no thing called perfect action. I think after you take enough imperfect action for long enough, you get to a point where you just start playing and everything just is in this beautiful flow. So I suggest to everyone, take imperfect action until you get to a point where it is just muscle memory, and that's when you start enjoying yourself.
I love that. And it's funny because as I was asking that question, something clicked in my brain where I'm like, I've known you for 7 years and I've never known you to ever overthink anything, ever overplan anything. You're probably one of the people I know who takes the most imperfect action. And it shows. Like, you've built so many things because you've been able to take that imperfect action when other people are still sitting there and planning and thinking about all of the ideas of the things that they want to do that they never actually do.
Hey, AI Geek, thanks for listening. Your job doesn't stop here. I want you to lend your voice to the conversation. So you can join those conversations, discussions, new trainings, new recordings, and the rest of the AI Geeks by going to aigeeks.co/Discord. Also, share this podcast with a friend, another potential AI Geek. Until then, much love.